All right, everyone. It is little after 5, and so we're going to go ahead and get started. Before I call the meeting to order, I want to announce that some committee members, staff, and the public are attending remotely via Zoom as well as on site. All participants joining by phone should mute their phones. I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. When not speaking, to avoid background noise. When speaking, please speak directly into a microphone to ensure everyone listening is able to hear your comments and to ensure a clear record is made. During the meeting, please make sure that you announce yourself by name and title every time you speak so that the public that is observing knows who is speaking. This is critical given the number of remote participants and is current guidance from the Kansas Attorney General. The public is allowed to participate by Zoom or submit comments by email prior to the meeting, and those comments will be included in the record of this meeting. The public may also indicate their intent to provide remote public comment by contacting the clerk's office by noon on the day of the meeting. The public also will have an opportunity to provide brief comments either by telephone or via Zoom from the 5th floor conference room of the municipal office building. Public comment will be allowed during each agenda item. Comments should be limited to the item at hand and per the commission rules of procedure and should not include any rude or derogatory remarks, reflections as to integrity, abusive comments, and statements as to motives and personalities. I will now call the meeting of the Neighborhood and Community Development Standing Committee for February 3rd, 2025 to order. Clerk, can we have the roll?
Roll call. Hill.
Here.
Ramirez.
Here.
Townsend.
Here.
Bynum.
Here.
Davis.
Here. Thank you so much, Clerk. Clerk, are there any revisions to the agenda this evening?
Yes, we have an agenda update, adding item number 9 under the committee agenda, and that will be heard as item number 2.
Yes. And so committee, just so you all are aware, we're going to move up our the Parks and Rec request, which is item 9, after Director Sharp goes, just to get some folks out of here a little bit early. Okay. All right. If there are no other revisions, let's move on to the next item. We have the March 4th, 2024 meeting minutes. Are there any comments or is there a motion?
Bynum at large, 1 motion to approve.
All right. Is there a second?
Townsend, 1 second.
All right. There was a motion and a second made to accept and approve the March 4th, 2024 minutes. Clerk, can we have the roll?
Roll call. Hill.
Aye.
Ramirez.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you so much. Okay, that brings us to another exciting action item, which is adopting the substantial amendment to the 2023 HUD Annual Action Plan. This is the first item on the agenda for the Unified Government's 2023 Annual Action Plan, which is from 2022 to 2026. I'll recognize Kay Sharp, our Director of Community Development. Good evening. Take it away.
Good evening. Again, I'm Kay Sharp, Director of Community Development, and I'm here tonight to speak on behalf and in favor of a substantial amendment. And this amendment, actually, there are 2 in conjunction. The first amendment is for if there is a provision in the Citizen Action Plan that indicates any expenditure of community development block grant funds that exceed 20% of the budgeted amount should come to the committee for approval. The situation that we had was that there had been several notices from HUD indicating that we were beyond our 1.5% income that is allowed under community development block grant. For instance, if our award in a given year is $1 million, that means that we should not have more than $1.5 million in our HUD account. The first notice that we had exceeded that amount came in July of 2023. And at that point, we were notified that we had exceeded that amount and we needed to spend down money. That's the issue. HUD does not want a lot of money sitting around. So we were notified that we were beyond that amount. There was another notice that was issued by HUD in August of 2023, again indicating that we needed to spend down those funds. As you all may know, the community development was in a transition period, and so we had an interim in place, and I think in all of the change in personnel, that was something that was just missed. So I came on board as the interim in December of 2023 and received a notice from HUD in February indicating that we were again over our limit that we could have in our account. At that point, we were given a deadline of August 2nd to spend that money. And it was roughly $2.4 million that we needed to spend. So in a normal situation, we would then need to come to you and request an amendment to change our activity to spend that money. Because again, and anything that's in our budget, if we exceed that amount by 20%, we have to come back and let you know that we're exceeding that amount by 20% and to get commission approval. Unfortunately, in this situation, because our timeline was so tight to spend that much money, we had to move forward and we selected some park projects, some very needed park projects that the community had been wanting. One was Kensington Park and the other was Clam Park. So as you can imagine, you have to go through the process of getting your contractors, getting everything that needs to be done before you can break down, the environmentals, all of those things. And we had to have that money out of our account by August 2nd. So that is the reason that we moved forward with those park projects before we did the substantial amendment process. So that is what we are doing now. We are still allowed to do that, but we have to show HUD that we did actually seek and we were granted a substantial amendment by the board. And then once that happens, that goes to HUD, and then HUD, if they don't comment in 45 days, it's accepted. There usually isn't any problem with that, but that's why we're doing things backwards this time.
Thank you, Director Sharp. And I know before we hear from you, Mr. House, there's a slideshow or some visuals of how these dollars were spent, which I think is critically important that we understand how the unified government has stewarded these dollars. Can we put those slideshows up? You had already alluded to some of these expenses with Clam Park and with Kensington, but I think it's very important for our community to connect the dots of these were federal dollars that was given to the unified government, and here's how we put those dollars to use. While that is happening, I think it's a CBDG parks. I think that's it. Yep. Okay. Great. And if you want to expand the arrows on the right corner by the settings, yep, right there. Okay, awesome. But, well, Director Sharp, were you complete, or did you have more that you wanted to add? Okay, Mr. House, do you have something?
I'll just, Alan House, Assistant Administrator, add a little additional context, which, as Ms. Sharp mentioned, she came on board as interim in December of 23. There've been a series of conversations that we've been engaged in around looking at how our CDBG funds are allocated and what they're allocated to, and that's what is in that 5-year plan. And through those conversations, and we may get into this a little bit more, is looking at opportunities to repurpose where those funds are going that are more in line with community development. And one example is around our home repair program, which we're using substantial amounts of CDBG funds, but are also eligible activities under home funds, which is the other significant pot of money that we get from housing and urban development. So in addition, as she's coming on board, identifying these issues as they're coming up, and HUD is coming saying, hey, if you don't get this money spent, we're gonna sweep it back, and we're gonna lose it as a community and the ability to do anything with that for the benefit of the residents. So she's dealing with that. At the same time, really kind of this creative rethink about how do we best utilize these funds more broadly going into the future. And some of that also see in the substantial amendment language, which broadens the number of categories that are eligible uses under CDBG into areas that really hadn't been using them for, but are aligned with, I think, where we're trying to go and aligned with the development of the economic development strategy and other pieces within the unified government. So she's been, walking and chewing gum and doing lots of things under the watchful eye of HUD, and also delivering for the community, as I think you'll see with these slides.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Committee, before we discuss this resolution, I do want to go ahead and engage the public here. So I'll ask the clerk if there are any written comments received for this item.
No comments were received.
Okay. Are there any hands raised online?
No hands are raised.
Okay. For the folks here in the gallery that are here in person, would anyone like to speak regarding this item? Okay, please come forward. Please state your name, city of residence. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Make sure that green button is on so that we can hear you.
Gotcha.
Awesome.
Okay, W.D. Young. My question is, we're only talking about 2 parks. What's wrong with Edgerton Park and the other parks that need help? I mean, why can't we clean those parks up? Why are we worried about these 2 parks? And we got other parks in the Northeast area that need some help. If we're trying to find some way to put this money, we can put it down there.
Director Sharp, you don't have to respond. Sir, for your 3 minutes, we just want to hear all the questions and then we will respond, but just want to make sure that you have the ability to say what you
Well, I
need.
mean, that's the only way I can bring it up if I say Edgerton Park. So it's not a question. I'm suggesting Edgerton Park. We got other parks we can do something with it.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay. We will take note of that and we will definitely have a response. Are there any other folks in the gallery that would like to speak? Okay. Thank you so much. We'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Director Sharp, are you going to respond to that? And I know we have our Parks Director and other staff here that can respond, but please.
Yes, again, Kay Sharp, Director of Community Development. One of the most important things that we have to do before we break ground or scratch the ground on any project is we have to do environmentals. So these 2 particular projects were furthest along in that environmental process. And again, we're really talking about from February to August, completing those processes. And the environmental process is quite lengthy. We not only have to do just the actual environmentals, but we have to reach out to the Native American community to find out if they have any concerns and so forth. So it's really a long process. And in this particular case, it was important that we select projects that had already gone through that process.
Thank you. Okay. Other responses? I don't know if our Parks Director would like to respond to the Edgerton, or at least if you have anything, Director Ferreira, that you'd like to add, if there's anything in the works regarding Edgerton, just be very helpful since we have you here.
Sure. Angel Ferrara, Director for Parks and Recreation. So Edgerton, I believe it was in 2022 or 2023, did receive a new playground through Kaboom and some park dollars as well as new surfacing. We're always looking to improve many of our parks, and I do think that Edgerton is slated to get some maintenance work done to the basketball court. There's some significant cracks there, so we do have that scheduled for early spring, but always open to any feedback that we have on how we can improve the parks, because we certainly are trying. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. The public comment period is closed, sir, for this item. Do appreciate you. Okay. Committee, this is a action item. Yes, Commissioner Ramirez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say thank you, Director Sharp, for the hard work. I know as Alan, or Mr. House said, you've been walking and chewing gum at the same time up to this point. And so just thank you for all the work you've done.
Yes, Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you. Good evening, Ms. Sharp. I do have a couple of questions. I know there was a changeover period, personnel-wise. I want to make sure I understand what happened, because when I read this, I thought and somehow we had exceeded spending. But listening to your presentation, I have a different interpretation now, that we didn't spend money, but there was an overage in the certain account that had not been spent. And having worked for the federal government, they will take money back. Is that basically what happened?
Well, we did need to spend money. The problem is our own UG Citizen Action Plan gives us very specific guidelines about how we spend that money. So if we, for instance, if we said in a given year we were going to spend $500,000 on public facilities, which would be parks, if we went over 20% of that $500,000, we have to come back and say, we are going to spend more than $500,000 plus the 20%, and therefore we need to get your permission before we spend it. Not that the money is not there. The money was always there, but our Citizen Action Plan says we need to come back and let you know that although we budgeted this amount, we're going to spend this amount. So that's what the substantial amendment is actually about, is to let the committee know that we did exceed the 20%, and therefore we need to come to you and explain why we did that.
Okay.
But in terms of the pot of money did not change.
Okay, I'm still confused. Did we exceed spending? It says, let's see, UG's Community Development Block Grant spending for public infrastructure for program year 2023 exceeded the budget amount by over 20%. So was there an overspending or not?
No, let me give you a for instance. Let's say we have $150,000 to spend. Okay, we have 3 budget items. Each of those budget items, we said we were going to spend $50,000, and that makes up that $150,000. If we decide that instead of spending 50, 50, and 50, we're going to spend 70 and 30 and 50, we have to come to you.
Mhm.
So the amount, the total amount is still the same. It's shifting from one budget line item. We're moving money from one line item to a different line item, but the budget itself still remains the same.
I don't know. In that example, it sounds like we went from 50 to 70.
On one, but we reduced it on the other. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, so the total amount
The
was not.
total amount stays the same. We went up in one category and down in another category. So the total amount remains the same. We just shifted the money around. But even doing that, even though we don't exceed our overall budget, because we moved money around in our line items, we still needed to come back.
So in that line item, because of whatever was added, that exceeded 20%, that's why you had to come back.
Exactly.
But there was, okay, so there was not a total of overspend.
Exactly.
Okay. What do we have? Well, I don't know. I started to ask the question, is there some oversight process that we need to do? You would still have to come back to us for 20%. So you're not here because of lack of oversight.
I wouldn't say, I- it's hard for me to speak to that because I
Because of when you
wasn't,
came in. Okay.
right. But I can tell you that we did receive 2 notices. That much I can tell you. We received 2 notices saying you need to spend this money.
Mhm.
And then I was made aware of it in February of last year, which was year 2 or month 2, and we had to spend it by August,
Mhm.
month 8. So we had 6 months to spend $2.4 million. So that is really the issue that we ran into.
Okay.
Commissioner, I might just add a little
Sure.
as well, which I think that was part of, well, and that's part of the reason we brought Mr. Sharp in as the director, is to make sure that we were having that oversight, and that we were, both thinking about how we're using those funds, as well as, part of this, I don't think you necessarily mentioned yet, is that these funds kind of accumulate on a year-over-year basis. So the federal government through HUD gives us an allocation, and at some point, if you haven't spent that allocation, then they'll sweep it back. And so the funds that were at risk were ones that had accumulated, but not been spent down. And so those were at risk of being swept back, by the federal government if they weren't put to use by August of last year. So one of the things that, Kay is looking at and keeping close eyes on now is what do those allocations look like? What does the aging of those allocations look like? And to make sure that we're not in this situation where we have to hurry up and spend. In this case, it was, our good fortune in a sense that we had shovel-ready projects that had already gone, where the sites had gone through their environmental review process, and we were able to put that money to work for the community. But we don't want to be in that position again, and I know that's something that Ms. Sharp is very focused on.
Well, thank you. So now that we have permanent oversight with your position field, that's what I was getting at, that we don't somehow inadvertently get back into that situation. All right, and I want to thank Mr. Young for his inquiry. He was going where I was going, and I'm glad to hear from our Director of Parks that Edgerton's correction of the court will take place in the spring, because that's just where I was going. So, thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? Yes, Commissioner Bynum.
Fine, I'm at large 1. I just wanted to say thank you to Ms. Sharp for the leadership in the department. I don't know if we're going to hear from you again tonight on another item. We've got the community benefits ordinance that you've been diligently helping us with. So thank you for your efforts. And also to our Parks Director. On Friday, in addition to the trail at Clapper, we cut a ribbon on some park benches that the Unified Government actually wrote a grant through the AARP Challenge Grant Program and was awarded money for benches. And Angel, I don't know, just quickly, if you wanted to share, I know there were 2 at Clapper, but weren't there several more?
Thank you, Commissioner. Yes, that's correct. We installed 12 benches total with the grant through AARP. It was collaborative with Urban Planning and Design. Ms. Marcy spearheaded that application process, and then also part of that project, we were able to install out of those 12. Actually, 4 of them were buddy benches. If you can remember, we had some pretty lengthy discussion about some benches at Wyandotte County Park and then also at Rosedale Park. So we were able to get those 2 parks some buddy benches, and also Rosedale got some new concrete pads. So very, very good project through AARP.
And I appreciate it. And I'm just speaking to the collaboration. So you have K-Sharp looking at correct and timely expenditures, and then being able to have parks that are ready for these improvements, and then collaborative funding through outside sources. So I'm pretty proud of what's happening within our departments, and I just wanted to say thank you.
Awesome. Yes, Commissioner Ramirez.
Thank you. This is an action item, isn't it?
Yes, I was just about to get to that.
Okay.
All right. Are there any other questions? Okay. This is an action item. Again, we are adopting the substantial amendment to the 2023 HUD Action Plan, Annual Action Plan. Is there a motion?
To approve.
There is a motion made by Commissioner Ramirez. Is there a second?
Hill, second.
All right. Clerk, can we get the roll?
Roll call. Hill,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
motion carries.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, we are moving to item 2, which is the 2025 Outdoor Recreation Legacy Partnership Program grant. That is a mouthful. But this is a item coming from our Parks and Rec Department for a grant, which is always great, especially when we talk about helping save the taxpayer dollars. So I'll hand it off to our Director of Parks and Recreation, Angel Ferreira, for some comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, so tonight we have before you a resolution for approval for Parks and Recreation to submit for the Outdoor Recreation Legacy Grant Program. This grant is actually administered through the Department of Interior, also through National Park Service, with KDWP as the lead agency for the state of Kansas. So our department, working collaboratively with Public Works as well, would like to request approval to submit for this grant application for construction of the Riverfront Park. As many of you are aware, we received parkland there at the Rock Island Bridge project in the amount of roughly 3.5 acres. And so we do think that this is a really good opportunity to be able to leverage some already existing dollars that have been allocated, invested already by the unified government to this area as the match to be able to obtain some funding to get the park constructed. Happy to stand for any questions. It is a fast-tracked item with the application submission deadline of Friday. So you can tell what staff will be doing this week, if approved.
Hard at work, hard at work. So a 50-50 match, how much are we talking?
Yes, so the minimum request is 300,000 and the max request is 15 million. We'd like to get as close to that 15 million as we can with already invested dollars, so we wouldn't be coming back and asking for money for this project. So we'd be utilizing already allocated or invested dollars. We are working right now with Public Works to determine what that number is. We're thinking it's probably anywhere between 5 and 10 million. So we'll submit as most as we can and then work that through the application process with our local contact at KDWP. He'll help us with the application, make sure it's good to go up to National Park Service for consideration.
Okay.
I might just add,
Yes,
Assistant
Mr. Hess.
Administrator, add a little context there and back to the gentleman's question of, why this park, why was this selected? And the reasoning there is that because it is a 50% match, Parks does not have a lot of capital in their budget for this year. A lot of that got kind of pulled out with revenue neutral. The levy project and the parks associated with the levy project had funding that was already in place, plus the work that's already been done. So we're seeing that as the opportunity to use that as the match portion of this grant to be able to maximize the funds that we can request through the ORLP process, because we have this existing funds related to the work around the bridge. If that makes sense.
Thank you. Okay. Want to go ahead and engage the public on this item, and then committee will go ahead and get to questions and comments. Clerk, were there any comments received from the public for this item?
No comments were received.
Any hands raised online?
There are no hands raised.
Okay. For the folks that are here in person, would anybody like to speak on this item? Okay, let the record show no one raised their hand. I'll go ahead and close the public comment portion. Committee, we have any questions? Yes, Commissioner Ramirez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Director Ferrer, you mentioned that there are investments in this area, and I know the biggest investment is the Rock Island Bridge. But what specifically have we, the UG, done in that area that has been an investment? I believe we have, but I cannot remember at the top of my head if we have, what those investments were.
Yes, so the overall levy trails, roughly, there's about $2.7 million that the UG has invested, I think, since 2021 or 2022. I wouldn't be the best to speak to that, but just in conversations with Public Works, that's some of the notes that I have here. There was funding in 2024 for the project as well, for the connector park, and then also an additional amount was given in 2025 to actually construct the park. So there's dollars in design as well. Between 2024 and 2025, there's about $5 million that the UG has contributed to this area. Some of it is contractual contributions, as you can see in this picture up here. That plaza area is part of the contractual agreement for the project for the bridge to be able to open, which is also parkland. And so then there's some design work in that as well. And then hoping we can utilize some of the funding from 2022 for the levy funds, that 2.7 million, and then also some money that's been spent on design.
Okay. To refresh my memory, it has been a while since this came before us. There is a trailhead, correct?
There is a trailhead on the Armourdale side.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I remember us discussing about that, and so I was just wanting to make sure that it was there. Was that Rock Island, was that Flying Trusses' responsibility, or was that ours to make the trailhead?
So I believe, and Sarah White is online listening, but I do believe that the trailhead is the responsibility of the unified government, but if she's on, not sure.
Yeah, that's Allen House Assistant Administrator. Yes, that's accurate. The trailhead is our responsibility on those. And on the eastern side, which abuts Kansas City, Missouri, they're in the process of creating a green line trail. So this will provide access, across the bridge, which is a public right-of-way through the, across the bridge. Even with the enhancements to Rock Island Bridge, it remains a public trail, public right-of-way, and that would allow for connections to that green line trail, as well as on the western side to the levee trail, which were part of the betterments. So when the levee project was originally proposed by the Corps of Engineers, it's like a $500 million project, there was the opportunity for the UG to buy a set of enhancements, and that's the 2.3, 2.7 million that you referenced, or the enhancements that were negotiated with the Corps of Engineers. So as that project has unspooled over the last couple of years, there's been these enhancements that have been laid down on top of that, like the trails that sit on top of the completed levees.
Okay, thank you. I was just asking because it's, like I said, it's been a while since this project was before us, and so I was just trying to jog my memory of things. I thank you for and I know Parks and our Public Works Department do an amazing job of looking out and going for those grants, and I want you to continue doing that. So thank you for what you do on that part.
Thank you. I did see very, very briefly that Sarah White had her hand up. I didn't know if we wanted to get anything. Yes, that might help enlighten us further, committee.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good evening. I apologize for not being able to be there in person. We had the flu hit our house pretty hard, so trying to stay away. Yeah, so the contractually obligated portions of the Rock Island Bridge are on either side, so the west and east side of Kansas Avenue. We are currently under contract for the construction on the east side, which we call the CID side. That is They will be mobilizing and starting construction on that next week. So we're really excited about that with construction slated to be complete in April. The Armourdale side is at 100% design, and we will be looking at when that construction can start as it correlates with the bridge, the actual Rock Island Bridge, and that project completion. So those are some of the updates. And so that money has been committed by the UG, and that is part of what we will be using in this grant as a match. So leveraging those items, as well as leveraging all of the money that's already been put into this project through design, through land acquisition, as well as the levee trail system. That was a huge savings by doing it with the Corps through the Casey Levees project. It was estimated at over 7 million if we would have done it ourselves, and we paid 2.7 for our betterment for that. So those are in construction right now as they are working on those levee reaches. As soon as they get the portion complete, then they go on and put on that enhanced surface, be it concrete or an enhanced aggregate, as well as the pedestrian access gates that we requested as part of that betterment.
Thank you. Okay. Committee, any other questions? Yes, Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you. Good evening, Ms. White and Ms. Ferrara. So I understood from Ms. White's comments that we have money basically tucked away for improvements along this park. So we don't have to look for money, because that was going to be my question. And this grant to be sought is up to 15 million, so we'd have to put in half of that. But we have 7.5 million somewhere already that we can draw from. Am I right? Is that correct?
Yes, that'd be correct.
Okay, good.
And Commissioner, might add, so some of that's already been committed, some has already been spent. There are portions of the park, which to the kind of looking at the screen to the north there in that red outline part where the funds have not yet been identified. So I just don't want you to think that, well, the money's already there and this will supplant money that already exists. This money will be used to finish the park and the kind of amenities, if you will, on east and I believe potentially on the west side as well. So I want to make sure that there was clarity there. I didn't want you to think that, well, this has all been paid for and we're just going after this grant so we don't have to pay for it out of UG funds.
Okay, so I'm not clear then, because if we're
So this is Sarah White. I'll
Yeah.
just add in. So both of all of our contractually obligated pieces were put into the budget. However, with eliminating all of the debt, a portion of the western side, the Armourdale side, is currently not funded. However, that side is not the timeline for that to be built. We do have some time to go after grants such as this, as well as request that money in next year's budget. So a portion of the Armourdale Trailhead will be included in this grant request to cover the remaining amount. But the funds that we do have currently in our budget that are paying for the eastern side and then the portion of the western side, those, along with all the other ones that I talked about, will be included as the match.
So kind of in short, no money currently exists for the park to actually construct the park. However, this is an opportunity to get those funds through leveraging the dollars committed, that the UG has committed to the contractually obligated components of the park to finish it out. Does that answer that question? It's better.
Well, not really, because either we have the money to contribute to the match, or we don't. That's what I'm trying to get. So as we go through budget cycle, um, I'm trying to anticipate whether I will hear again, we need another 2.5 or 5 from this. So I'm just trying to get it clear, so there are no surprises at budget.
So we'll be submitting the grant application with the dollars that are already invested and allocated as the match. So we will not be coming back to the committee to ask for more dollars to support the project.
If
Okay, well,
intervene, just to clarify, so it's a 50-50 match. Our 50 is money that we were already prepared to spend or have spent. The other 50, if we get the grant, would come from this organization, right? But if we don't get the grant, we're not necessarily on the hook. We would just have to find other avenues to fund it. Is that correct? Okay, Commissioner
Correct,
Townsend,
yes,
does
that
that
is
bring
correct.
some clarity?
well, I've just heard then that to support our match of this grant, we already have funds.
Yes.
That's all I'm looking for.
Yes.
That's
We have
all
the
I'm
50%.
looking for, because
Yes.
that's not kind of what I heard before. So either we have it or we don't.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, we have it, and it's a mix of what has been allocated and what has already been spent. That's our 50%.
Long as we already have it to spend as part of the grant. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Other questions? Okay, this is an item for action. Is there a motion?
Move to approve and fast track to the January 6th full commission.
Item second.
Hold on, you said you said January 6th.
Oh, February 6th, sorry.
February 6th, full commission, and your second concurs.
Item second.
Just want to make
Okay.
sure that clear for the record. This is a fast track for the February 6th full commission meeting. Okay, clerk, can we get the roll?
Roll call, Hill,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Fingers crossed, prayers up. We need all the grant money that we can get. Okay, we're going to transition to our land bank options. All right, Mr. Knapp, you ready to go? All right, take it away.
Good evening. For the land bank tonight, I do have one change for the options. Item C1 was removed. This item was held last month because no neighborhood meeting took place. I've been in contact with the neighborhood group and the applicant, and they're going to meet on February 25th. So hopefully I'll bring it back on March 3rd meeting and present that. But let me start on the single-family homes here. A1 is at 1915 North Thompson Street. This is for a single-family home. Staff's only comment on this one was a narrow lot review. A2 is just a block to the north at 961 North Thompson Street. There are two land bank lots here, 1961 and 1965. The applicant already owns 1963 and 1959. His plan is to combine all those, replat those four lots into three lots and build three homes on those lots. The builder does have experience, so he is a seasoned builder. A3 is at 6707 Parallel Parkway. It's for a single-family home, and this builder is, this is his first land bank build with us, but he has 40 years of experience building homes, and he said this is the first of many. A4 is at 1940 North 11th Street and 1936. It's 2 lots to build 2 single-family homes. We did receive a comment from the Land Bank Advisory Board on this one. It says request a 30-day hold to reform a neighborhood group. This is formerly the London Heights neighborhood, and the president is deceased, and they're trying to set up a new neighborhood group through livable neighborhoods. But this application is like outside of their neighborhood, the old neighborhood group boundaries. See, we're right here, and London Heights is over here off of 13th Street. So this is like not part of that. Those were the comments I received on that one. And Ray Peoples, the person that's applying for this, has had 7 years of construction experience. He said he grew up, his father was a home builder, so he's very versed in how to build homes. Item B1 is multifamily, but it's also Ray Peoples that's applying for it. So it's the same person. He's requesting 3 lots to build 1 duplex on. He has the same comment from the Land Bank Advisory Board requesting a 30-day hold for the meeting with the neighborhood group. Now, I do have to say, this was outside of a neighborhood group, so what I do is when I send out notice to all the neighborhood groups, I send notice to livable neighborhoods. I said these items are not inside of a neighborhood group. So I have given livable neighborhoods notice of these properties. Commissioner, I can go on to the next item, the property transfer.
That would be good. Let's keep it there. It was brought to my attention in our previous meeting that when we have grouped some of these applications together, it gets jumbled up for the public when they want to speak. So if they want to speak on A1, A2, and A3, and then we say, okay, you have 3 minutes, well, really, they should have 9 minutes, right? Because we have to take it item by item. And so what I'm going to do is go through our regular public engagement process, application by application. And then for the committee, we can decide how we want to proceed, if we want to make it all one vote or if we want to go one application right at a time. Okay. So clerk, for A1, were there any public comments received?
No comments were received.
Any hands raised for A1?
There are no hands raised.
Okay. For the gallery, for A1, which is 1915 North Thompson Street, would anyone like to provide a public comment for that application? Okay, let the record show no one approached. Okay. For A2, clerk, were there any comments received?
No comments were received.
Okay. Are there any hands raised online for A2, which is 1961 North Thompson Street?
There are no hands raised.
Okay. For the folks that are sitting in the gallery, would anyone like to speak on A2? Let the record show no one approached. For A3, clerk, were there any comments received from the public?
No comments were received.
Are there any hands raised online?
There are no hands raised online.
Okay, for A3, for folks that are here, 6707 Parallel Parkway, would anyone like to speak to this particular item? Let the record show no one has approached. For A4, this is 1940 North 11th Street. Clerk, were there any comments received from the public?
No comments were received.
Are there any hands raised online for A4?
There are no hands raised online.
Okay. For folks that are here in person in the gallery, would anyone like to speak on A4? Let the record show no one has approached. Mr. Knapp, did you already present on B1?
Yes, Commissioner.
Okay. For B1, Clerk, this is 1314 Freeman Avenue. Were there any comments received?
No comments were received.
Are there any hands raised online?
There are no hands raised online.
Okay, for the folks that are here in person, would anyone like to approach to speak to this item? Okay, let the record show no one has approached. So I'm going to close the public comment portion for A1 through B1, just to be a little bit more thorough. Committee, are there any questions regarding A1 through B1? Yes, Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you, Townsend, District 1. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have no questions, just a comment with regard to this would be A4 and then B, I guess since it's the same requester, Mr. Peoples, and the same request has been made from the London Heights Neighborhood Group, which is, I guess, trying to reconstitute itself. I do know that there is a neighborhood group in my area that did enlarge itself during its existence within the last 2 years. So if these items are even near the border, I would request that we hold A1 and B4 to give the former London Heights group a chance to reconstitute itself, and if nothing else, have their tentative president or organizer and any interested people in that area meet with Mr. Peoples, and then bring this back for the next month. That would be my motion.
Okay. Hold that motion because I know we want to get some clarity there. Counselor, were you going to add something? Yes.
Yeah, I was just going to make sure, Commissioner Townsend, did you mean A4 and B1?
Yes, that would be correct.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Are there any other comments? Because we will need an amended motion, Commissioner Townsend. But are there any other comments before we get that amended motion? Okay. Commissioner Townsend, can you amend your motion to reflect the proper applications, please?
Certainly. So I move that items A4 and also B1, wherein the applicant is Mr. Ray Peoples, that these items be held over till the next meeting of this body in order for him to meet with representatives of the closest neighborhood group, London Heights.
Okay. Is there a second?
So District 4, second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to hold till our next meeting, A4 and B1, so that they can speak with the close by neighborhood groups. Clerk, can we get the roll?
Roll call. Hill,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, that leaves A1 through A3. Is there a motion on those items or conversation?
To approve A1 through A3.
Townsend, second.
All right, there was a motion made by Ramirez and a second made by Townsend to approve A1 through A3. Clerk, can we get the roll?
Roll call. Hill,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you so much. Mr. Knapp?
Next land bank items is property transfers. Here is at 516H North 9th Street. This is a transfer to the Unified Government for a stormwater project.
All right. Thank you so much. Like we've done before, let's do public comment. Clerk, were there any comments received for PT1, which is 516 North 9th Street?
No comments were received.
Are there any hands raised online?
There are no hands raised.
Anyone from the public, would you like to speak to this particular item? Let the record show no one has approached the committee. Any conversation or is there a motion? Yes, Commissioner Ramirez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Knapp, you may not know. What is the stormwater project? I'm just curious. If you don't know, that is completely A-okay. I can reach out to our Public Works.
It's part of the CSO project. I mean, it's part of the thing that's going through Waterway Park right now. It's closing a lot of streets in that area.
All right, thank you.
Yes, Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you, Townsend District 1. Mr. Knapp, is this one of the situations where we are transferring this from land bank to what exactly? And after this project takes place, is this land that would be suitable for building or not? It may be council.
Sorry, Wendy Green with legal. This is going to go into the UG and it'll be part of the assets controlled by Public Works. Afterwards, it will be part of their stormwater assets, so it would not be suitable for building.
Thank you, Counselor.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? All right, is there a motion?
Townsend, second.
All right. Clerk, can we get the roll?
Roll call, Hill,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
motion carries.
Thank you so much. Okay, we are moving along and our next, our next item is on approving land bank holds for the Peregrine Falcon parcels. Counselor, I assume you have some stuff to add, but I know Mr. Knapp, you have a presentation as well. So I'll hand it off to you, Mr. Knapp, and then if you have any comments, Ms. Green, we can take those. Mr. Knapp, take it away.
Thank you, Commissioner. All right, so a little bit of history of the Peregrine Falcon. The TIF district was created in 2005. It expires in 2025. The original development agreement was in 5 phases. The picture you see there is of from the development agreement. You could see the 1 and the 2. You could see the 5 phases from the map. 5 homes were built. During that time, the current average value of those homes is $312,000. The resolutions that you were given, there's option, I believe it was option A, not option 1. But option A is the Peregrine Falcon first plat, and that is in blue here on this map. And then the redevelopment district is option B, and it's the green parcels here. Option 1, there's 32 parcels in that first plat of Peregrine Falcon. Numbers that are land bank are 24. In the Peregrine Falcon redevelopment district, there's 268 parcels in there, and 135 of those are land bank. This screenshot is directly off of our land bank online map that's available to the public. We see that pink is approved. We have inside Peregrine Falcon here, we have 2 that are approved. Now, approved means that you as commissioners have said, yes, they can have an option, but they haven't signed an option with me yet. So then the signed ones means those are the people that have signed. And there are 9 inside Peregrine Falcon right now. Pre-approved is this, as they're going through the process, we have 0 of those right now. And then we have 2 completed as of right now. There's one by Mosaic Construction where the house is, I think, close to being done or done. And then the second one is right here on like Roland and Halleck. It's like T&M Construction are the ones that have completed options. And completed options means they have a building permit and they provided me with proof of funds, and I have transferred the property to them. Next is I added land bank lots or available land bank lots onto that first map, and we have 122 of those. I did remove some of the ones that were already under option and the ones that were just unbuildable. So there's 122 buildable properties in there. That completes my presentation.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Davis. I keep forgetting to even say my own name before I speak. Okay, Counselor Green, was there anything you wanted to add to the presentation?
Not to that presentation. The only thing I would state is the reason that you have two options is because when we talk about Peregrine Falcon, I don't know that we were all clear at what we actually were meaning when we were referencing Peregrine Falcon. There's the actual first plat, which contains the homes that have been built and which are part of the homeowners association that the declaration and covenants applies to. That is the only thing that the covenants and the declaration applies to is that first plat. So if you look at your packet, the very first resolution that is included in your packet, that Peregrine Falcon first plat, that would be option A, to just put the hold on those parcels. And again, that's the only, those are the only parcels that the declaration and covenants apply to. And then option B is the entire Peregrine Falcon redevelopment district, which was originally what was going to be developed as part of the development agreement with the Hughes Development Group. That development agreement has long since expired. There's nothing pertaining to that development agreement that applies today. There's nothing that binds the unified government to that development agreement any longer. So there's actually nothing other than the district still exists. There's nothing that holds the unified government to that actual district, other than it does still exist, but there's nothing that would cause you to have to adopt that particular option, other than we reference it still. And so I didn't know if that was something you all would want. So just to make sure you had all the options in front of you, I put that in the resolution as well.
Thank you so much, Counselor. And again, this was in response to our previous meeting in which there was a lot of interest. Okay, let's go ahead and do public comment for this item. Clerk, were there any comments received for this item?
No comments were received.
Okay. Are there any hands raised online for this item?
There are no hands raised online.
Okay. For the folks that are here in person in the gallery, thank you so much for patiently waiting. Are there folks that would like to speak to this item? Okay, cool. Go ahead and we can kind of line up, just kind of person by person. Please state your name, city of residence. You'll have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Nathan Barnes, Wyandotte County. I know you mentioned options. And I just want to reiterate the fact that being the first one to occupy this development, I moved to that neighborhood because of what was presented to me at the time. Now, I know you don't have any legal obligations to the original development, but you do have an obligation to one of the original homeowners. And I was sold a bill of goods based on this plat being built out completely. My decision was based on that. That's what I was sold. And any other option, reducing it, changing it, that's typical of what normally happens in the North End. I don't want that to continue to happen. I hope that you would look forward, understand the process of investment that people have made in this community, and that I still believe that the dream is still alive. And that dream is to develop the entire plat, the entire area, and not just a small plat that we were looking at right now. So I'm totally against option A. I'm in favor of option B. And I know that when it comes to making a long-term commitment to the North End, the government has failed us. And that, when it failed us, it failed developers and anybody that had an interest in the neighborhood. So we need to have consistent policy that says, this is what we plan, this is what we're going to do, and I'm going to stick to it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, my name is W.D. Young. I'm speaking on behalf of Peregrine Falcon. I was sold a bill of goods too. I told this would be 138 houses and we will have every input on it. Now it's like the city and the legal are backing away from it. I know we got properties up there that they don't want to take care of, but this is why I came down in this area. We was fighting, trying to keep from going out here to the other area out west to build, which it seems like nothing down in the northeast area is good enough. So I think the legal needs to retract that, seeking that we owe us nothing. Yes, they do. I think they owe us, it should have called us to the table and say, this is what we would like to do instead of just doing something. And then we finding out later on, this is not what was promised. I mean, you can't renege on it, and this is what they're doing.
Good evening. My name is Emmanuel Kine. I'm the owner of Construction Management Team, and I have submitted paperwork to build 2 houses in that area. And I've been on hold, and I was told to wait to see what happens here. And now I'm asking, should I continue to wait, or is the paperwork being taken care of, or is it on hold, or what? Because at this point, I have sold my house. And if it's going to be on hold for a while, I need to build another house for me to live in and then come back to this. So is there anyone in here that can answer that question? Has my application been looked at?
We will answer that question. We just want to give you all of your time for your 3 minutes, but you will get an answer to that question.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Hi there, my name is Emily Wolf and I'm a resident in Rosedale, Kansas. I just wanted to highlight a few things that I think the last few weeks the Peregrine Falcon residents have brought up about quality housing. So again, I probably should have brought this up sooner when the program was development, but if we don't ensure requirements are in place to ensure quality housings are built in our community and on these land bank lots, the land bank lot program will quickly get a bad reputation among residents and potential developers. I mean, developers and builders who build quality housing, they exist, and they won't want to build next to these lots if the house next to it is falling apart, doesn't match the neighborhood's character. And then the UG residents and local nonprofits, when we build poor quality housing, we pay the price in terms of the residents, their homes are falling apart in a few years. The homes can't withstand extreme weather, are extremely uncomfortable immediately, and power outages. And people in those homes are uncomfortable, have high utility bills and possible health issues. So people are thinking more and more about, you hear, not just affordable housing, but quality housing. And the median home age in KCK is almost 60 years old. So let's have programs and build housing that match the character or quality for current residents and future. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other folks in the gallery like to provide public comment for this item? Okay, I'll go ahead and close the public comment portion. Thank you all so much. I want to start with the question of the developer that was wanting to build. So Mr. Knapp, you got that application, but I know we were also discussing on putting this on a hold. And so what recommendations do you have for that gentleman?
Well, all the lots have been applied for in Peregrine Falcon. So they're all kind of taken right now, but they haven't been approved yet, but people have wanted them. So when he applied for them, they were already taken by somebody else. So my best advice was we have 4,000 lots that are just waiting for him to build on.
Okay, gotcha. So, sir, what the gentleman that had been wanting to build, our recommendation is that you find another area to build in because we've already have that area committed to. And so, and we're about to vote on a hold for this area, which means land bank parcels will not be available for a period of amount of time. The public comment portion has closed. However, if you would like to speak with our staff Public comment portion has closed. However, if you would like to speak to our staff after the meeting or leave us your information, you can leave it with the clerk and we will follow up with you. Thank you. Committee, any questions? Yes, Commissioner Bynum.
Thank you, Bynum at large one. I have questions, Judd, because I cannot square away. I just heard you say all the parcels are taken. And so I don't know what that means when I look at the PowerPoint that says in the first plat, there's 24 land bank parcels. Meaning there's 24 land bank parcels, all of which have been spoken for? And are in an option phase with an individual or a builder? I'm really confused.
Currently, there are 13 that are under option that commissioners have approved.
In phase one?
Yes,
Okay, 13 options in phase one.
yes.
And in Peregrine Falcon Redevelopment District, option 2 or B, the number of parcels is 268, according to the PowerPoint. And of those 268, 135 are land bank parcels,
That is correct.
according to the PowerPoint. So does that mean that in option B, the green area, you have 133 lots that are not land bank parcels and are therefore owned by private individuals?
Yes. As I sit here, I did not look at how much the UG owns in that area. I can't say it's all the others are private owner.
Okay, so in the larger area, just in the yellow or the green, we have 133 lots owned by private individuals or developers or someone that's not the land bank.
Yes, Commissioner.
So I don't understand when you say all the parcels are taken, what you mean.
Okay, in Peregrine Falcon, the first plat.
First plat,
The blue one.
okay,
The last meeting that we had that all the ones that I was presenting, if you would approve those, it would have filled up the first plat of Peregrine Falcon. But we
didn't do that
didn't, so now they're still available.
because we voted last month and now we're possibly voting to codify a hold.
That is correct.
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to finish your sentences, but I'm trying very hard to understand. And yet we had an individual tonight, Mr. Emmanuel, asking the status, I guess, of his Peregrine Falcon application. And it's currently on hold. So he was in the last batch last month that we held. I'm asking that
It's
as a
not in the
question.
last batch. He applied for it after the other applicants applied for it.
Oh, okay. Okay, so he's, when we say he's on hold, it's because there are people in front of him that have applied for that same exact parcel.
Yes.
And meanwhile, all of that is on hold.
Yes.
Okay. All right. It's not confusing at all. Thank you. I appreciate that. I think I understand that in first plat, I'll go back. 13 options are in play that we have granted as the UG, leaving 11, according to the number of land bank parcels, that we would be holding if we just did the blue area. Okay. And then we would potentially, if we did the entire area, we would also be holding 135 parcels in the redevelopment area. And I would be in favor of the hold for the entire area. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, all right. Commissioner Townsend, and then we'll just go down the line.
Thank you. I appreciate the depiction here. And I think, just for simplicity's sake, when we have been talking about Peregrine Falcon in the past, in terms of land bank applications, if you look at page 2 of the handout, where you've got, it's entitled Peregrine Falcon First Plat. And it was clear to me from the previous meetings we've had that the current residents, and rightfully so, are concerned about how it will look and an issue of uniformity. I think there's been one house recently newly built and sold. I would just say, as I said then, it should meet the standard of what's there. We heard tonight that the current homes, not including the one newly built, which sold for $500,000, was approximately $312,000. I think the real focus should be, how do we get this first plat more fully developed in a manner that is similar to what is there already, complementary, and also not in a way that's going to unduly raise taxes for other people in the area. I don't think that's what we want. We've got enough of those issues right now. The other problem or stumbling block I see with, if we pass this resolution B, you've got a much broader area that you also see on page 2 that's going to restrict our ability for a year to make 135 houses that are not seen by Peregrine Falcon First Plat people. Those are more northerly situated, and you're talking about including the resolution option 2, items that are on Quindera, on 7th Street. You wouldn't even see those houses. Furthermore, you have tenants of long standing there. I would not want to see them displaced and their taxes significantly raised either for houses that are not like what you see the newer ones in Peregrine Falcon. I would like to see the first resolution adopted concentrate on getting similarity of design, stability of design with the input from the neighborhood. And I thought about the possibility of how we can do that. And I'm glad to see our economic development director here. And I thought about a request for proposal that would give a variety of interested developers an opportunity to come forward with examples similar to what's there with a reasonable price point that would make the current homeowners feel that we're hearing what their concerns are and trying to acknowledge that they should have definitely in that plat what they thought they were buying into. We can always go back and do something different for the redevelopment district, but I think right now that's a bit too broad and that we should be concentrating on this first plat, which does, as I look at it, even go to the north of what you see here and get some houses along the back, but that would be my thought. And Mr. Chair, if you see fit, could we just have an opportunity to hear from Ms. Chisholm what the request for proposal process might look like.
Yeah.
And would there be an allowance during that process for the current residents to speak about what they would like to see in terms of design? Thank you.
Yes, please, Ms. Chisholm.
Sue Chisholm, Economic Development Director. So we have in the past, very recent past, issued a number of RFPs for city-owned properties to include the 4th of Minnesota site, 18th and Quindaro, and Indian Springs sites. So this would not be an unusual approach for us to take for a larger geographic area. I would work with Judd. We would develop a scope, work with members of the committee to make sure that kind of and captures exactly what your intentions are and make sure we haven't omitted anything that needs to be included. And then whatever direction from the committee as far as the review and selection process looks like, we could vet that and they could make their determination and selection of a builder to come in and develop the first portion of Peregrine Falcon.
Ms. Chisholm, when we do, and maybe Mr. House could speak to this as well, because I don't believe you were here the last time RFPs for development in the Quindaro area, the downtown area, and Indian Springs were let. So was there an opportunity for public to weigh in during those processes? Either one.
This is Wendy Green with Legal. Actually, there was a lot of public engagement on those. There were many, many meetings that they had for the public to weigh in on what they wanted to see at all those different sites. So probably we could have a public meeting with the members of the public that actually live in that area and around that area to see what exactly they would want to see in that site too.
Thank you. I would recommend that, I don't know how quickly that could be done, but I would certainly like if Ms. Chisholm, any of these members here who want to, and I just have a meeting with the neighborhood group. I would also like to see the members of this, if it would benefit them to see what we're talking about geographically here. I appreciate the presentation tonight, but like I said, there's a big difference in Plat 1 and then this redevelopment district, because I certainly don't want this to have unintended consequences for people in that boundary, to be displaced needlessly or to have taxes escalate. So I would ask, are we in February already? Oh my goodness. When is our next standing committee?
It's Commissioner Davis, March 3rd, if I'm not mistaken, March 3rd.
March 3rd. I would like to have this issue held over until the next standing committee, and within that time, I would ask staff to organize a meeting with me and the neighbors in residence already, the Peregrine Falcon. So we can have a little bit more conversation and, like I said, give this group just the opportunity, if you choose to go and see it. But as things now stand, I would favor the option 1 for the reasons stated, A or whatever this is. So that's my motion.
Thank you so much. We hold that motion. We did have Commissioners Hill and Commissioner Ramirez that wanted to add on and add to this. And then Commissioner Bynum wants to come back around. Okay. Commissioner Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the presentation on this evening. I certainly appreciate the conversation. I just I just want Peregrine Falcon neighbors to know that I certainly can appreciate your concern for making sure that the quality of your neighborhood remains quality. That the builders that come in, the houses that are built are quality and they fit the architectural flat ground that you all have already established. And so I said all that to say I'm definitely willing to hold it till we get to a point where we're able to make sure that that continues to happen. I also am very concerned about making sure that the legal piece that goes with the homeowners um, um, legal paperwork. When I say homeowners, I just mean the overall package for all the homeowners, that it is up. I'm not saying that right. It's not homeowners. Yeah, HOA, that's what I want to say. That the HOA is legal, everybody understands it, and you're able to use it to make sure that what you want is what's in your community. That's what I want to say, because I see that happening in other parts of the city. And people are aware of the power that they have with those HOAs, with their attorneys and all that. So I feel like you too should have that opportunity and be able to benefit from that. And so I just want you to know, you definitely have my support, and we look forward to working with you together shortly to get you to where we need to be. Thank you.
Commissioner Ramirez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm going to try to hopefully not make this complicated. Does option 2 also include option 1? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. I was hoping that it wasn't an either or, that it was that option 2 also included the boundaries of option 1.
Yes, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Bynum.
Thank you. Questions, to clarify, if we were to only hold option 1 or option A for the purpose of developing an RFP for Peregrine First Plat, we would be looking for a builder who wanted to build 11 homes. Is that correct? That's how many land bank lots are left. That's how many spots we would be placing on hold.
There might be a few options that get canceled in there. I think 2.
Would be 11 plus a couple.
14 maybe.
But that's what we'd be basically asking for, right? There's 11 land bank lots that are not under option, according to what you told me earlier. Okay. And maybe there is a builder that wants to do that. I have no idea, but I just wanted to clarify that that's what we'd be asking for in an RFP process. And part of the, Commissioner Townsend and my fellow commissioners know that I like to seek the middle ground and I like to find compromises. And so I would not be opposed to what Commissioner Townsend proposes. However, the reason why I tend to choose option B is because of that same conversation we've been having over and over and over and over about land bank policy in general. That same conversation that we've been having with leaders in the Northeast area about the land bank policy. And a recognition from several members of this very specific community who are asking for that consideration that we've given to the entirety of the land bank policy as we made our way through that process for multiple years. And so that is why I would tend to support option B over option A. I wouldn't vote against option A because it's something. But Commissioner Townsend, if I heard you correctly, you were proposing a hold of even this vote. Did I hear that right?
Yes.
Okay,
And that would give, as I said, I'm very familiar with the area, maybe some of you less so. So you can see what the Plat One looks like, and then outside of that.
okay.
And I am a bit confused, Mr. Knapp, because as I look at your handout, it says number of parcels 32, number of land bank parcels 24. So that's what's up for grabs. But then I heard Commissioner Bynum mention something like 11 houses. Is that what 24 parcels would translate to? How do we know it would translate to just 11 houses out of the 24 parcels?
We already have 13 approved options.
Of the 24?
Yeah.
Okay, so those were approved prior to our action last month, holding those applications. Is that what you're saying? Okay, thank you.
And that's why I was saying there's 11 left. There's 11 spots left.
Yeah,
So,
but you are correct. My request was to hold this item
okay,
for further review by you all, if you choose to do that. And then within the month, I would like to request the aid of staff, Ms. Chisholm, Mr. Howes, Deputy Chief, Mr. Knapp, to engage the community and talk about the request for proposal process. So we don't have to do the cherry picking, anymore and see what they want to see. So you were correct. That's what my motion entailed.
okay, because I thought as you were talking, I was actually hearing you make a motion for option A, but that is not what you were doing. You were making a motion for a hold.
Yes.
Right,
Okay.
and just discussing some of the pros and cons and the focus
Okay.
on it.
And then the only comment I have further is that I would be more than happy to join a meeting with you and the neighborhood and our staff. And I'm sure several of us would appreciate doing that. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Oh, Commissioner Ramirez? Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yeah, we can organize something. We'll have to be mindful of, Tacoma and all that stuff, but we can organize something with scheduling. Okay, so there was a motion. Well, before I get to that, there were some comments I wanted to make. We have been having this conversation on Peregrine Falcon for a while, and I think within some of the very, very much and very much justified frustration within the residents are city services, right? So it's coming out here, right, in our discussion on the land bank. But if we're talking about the types of buildings and buildings not being of quality or there being unruly, right, neighbors and folks that are building things that they're not permitted to do so, that is outside of the purview of the land bank, but that is certainly within the purview of the unified government. And so I don't want us to get lost within this process where all of the frustration is coming out over the Peregrine Falcon hold in this conversation, where some of those frustrations may not be resolved if we don't just get the appropriate staff involved. Some of the frustrations you all have expressed are code enforcement issues and code violations. And so we have to make sure that some of those issues, not all of them, but that some of them are expressed. Public comment is closer. But we can talk after the meeting if you would like. The other thing I'll say is if we are going to invest in the RFP process, which is very timely, which is very tedious, and we'll have to make sure that we make sure the juice is worth the squeeze. I think option B would be better. This is just Commissioner Davis speaking. I would much rather go through the option of procurement for 100 homes than for 10 homes, just because it quite literally can end up being the same amount of work, right? Depending upon how much. Last thing I'll say is I think it's important for us to consider, and again, we can give our staff guidance on how to create the RFP, but all of the homes don't have to be formulaic. So within the RFP, we could say, hey, for this area, fit what's in the HOA, right, for Peregrine Falcon, but for the homes that are outside the area, we can also give some additional guidance. And so just wanted to add my 2 cents there. So that we can think about this process. Okay, Commissioner Townsend, you made a motion to hold this particular item to our next meeting, which is March 3rd. I do not recall there being a second. Is there a second?
Item second.
Okay, there is a motion to hold this item, which is the Peregrine Falcon hold, and a second. Clerk or Commissioner Townsend, yes, did you have anything else to add?
And again, part of that motion was for staff to organize a meeting, invite current Peregrine Falcon, Plat 1 residents. And we talk about possibly using an RP process, all to trying to achieve what their concerns were about what's there, anything new complementing what's there, and still trying to balance the tax issue and valuation. So you don't hit with sky high. So that's all part of the motion.
Okay, awesome. So motion to hold for further conversation with staff and with residents of Plat 1, Peregrine Falcon. Do you concur, Commissioner Bynum, on that?
Second.
Okay, all right, clerk, can we get the roll?
Roll call, Hill,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
motion carries.
All right. Thank you all so much. We'll go ahead and transition to our next list of items that are all, of course, related, but we'll have to take independent action. So I'll give some time for staff to move around and for the public and folks to adjust. All right. And folks that are transitioning, and thank you everyone that has been patient. It has been a pretty long night. Could have been longer if we started after the prior committee, but we are still here, and we're kind of pretty much in the fourth quarter. Okay, the next item on our agenda is a series of ordinances that is related to the community benefit ordinance. If you all recall, in, I believe it was December or November, we brought forward for information only these a list of ordinances to consider for the community benefits ordinance. We've taken all of the feedback that was submitted and kind of revamped it to accommodate all of the edits that folks wanted. And so that leaves us here. And so it says Jeff Conway from the legal department. Jeff's not here. I'm assuming Z, that's you that will be taking it away. So Z, Bishop, please take it away.
Thank you. This is Z Bishop from the Unified Government Legal Department, and I am not Jeff Conway. As Commissioner Davis stated, these ordinances came before the committee on December 9th, is what my notes say. For information only, this is a suite of ordinances that are all related. The first one would be an amendment to the community benefit ordinance itself. We are amending some language, but also moving it to a more appropriate place in the code, given that the subject matter is really largely community development related. And so we felt in the legal department that it was better for the ordinance to be housed there. In addition to amending the code, and really the reason that we had to amend that community benefit ordinance was because the buckets of money where this fund would be directed have changed a little bit because of the revenue neutral conversation and just some reorganization that has happened. And so the 3 buckets of money have become a bucket of money for community development that actually has 2 different parts to it. The Housing Trust Fund has the Upper Story program, and then also the KCK Homes for Generations program. We've added a Parks and Rec component, and then, of course, the Child Care Accessibility Act, which has remained unchanged. So as Commissioner Davis indicated, after these items came in front of this committee back on December 9th, he took feedback and we made a couple of tweaks. And so the tweaks that we made are largely to the Housing Trust Fund item. There was a request to cap the staff costs for the Community Development Office at 10%. And I believe that Kay Sharp may be able to provide some more information about that, but I believe that that was related to some HUD requirements. Additionally, there was also a tweak for the Homes for Generations program that would allow for evictions and foreclosures to be included in the scope of work for those legal services that we would hope to provide. And the sections on those, it would be for the 10% cap that is in 921 E1 and then sub 15. So that's the little X and little V. And then for the addition of the evictions and foreclosures to the scope of work, that's in 921 E2 sub 6, so sub little v little I. And then the other tweak was to the Parks and Rec portion of the CBO. That one is just to make sure that we are also recognizing that we do in fact have a Parks and Rec board, and we wanted to make sure that they also have the ability to provide recommendations to the Community Benefits Advisory Board for the park capital projects. And you will find that addition in new section 25-90B. So all of those are in your packet. The rest of the language is exactly the language that you saw when these came before you back in December. But I am happy to answer any questions you may have. And I know that Angel and, as I said, Kay are both here as well if you have any questions.
Awesome. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Okay. So committee, the way that the agenda is designed is the actual ordinance for the Community Benefits Fund that creates the overall process, talks about the revenue, all that stuff reporting. That is item 6. The rest of the items are ordinances specifying the criteria, requirements, and reporting for each expenditure. Okay. So for item 6, you have the overall ordinance. For item 7, you have the Parks and Rec portion explained. For item 8, you have the Housing Trust Fund explained. And then lastly, for item 9, you have the child care portion explained. And those 3 additional ordinances came about the desire to have some accountability and some clarity on what we mean when we say Housing Trust Fund, what we mean when we say Community Benefit Fund for Parks, and what we mean when we say Community Benefit Fund for Child Care. Okay, I'm going to jump to public comment for just item 6. And then I'm sure you all may have some questions, but we'll start with that piece of legislation first, which is the overall ordinance creating the Community Benefits Fund. Clerk, do we have any comments for this item?
Yes, we have one written comment.
Okay.
This is from Greg Kendall, President of the Wyandotte Economic Development Council. Commissioners, please accept this letter on behalf of the Wyandotte Economic Development Council in support of the amendment to define the primary uses of the Community Benefits Fund for Parks and Recreation Capital Projects, an Affordable Housing Trust Fund, and home-based child care programs. We commend the committee for the work that has been done to develop the fund to address community needs through economic development without increasing the cost of doing business. There are myriad programs that could and need funding. These three areas impact the community's quality of life for all ages with parks and recreation capital programs, families of all ages seeking affordable housing, and supporting families with much-needed childcare. We know this ordinance will continue to evolve as all programs do, but we believe this is a good place to start. Again, thank you for moving this forward and looking for ways to connect economic development to building a more resilient community. If you have questions, please let me know.
Thank you, Clerk. Were there any other letters received for this item?
No other comments were received.
Okay. Are there any hands raised online for this item?
There are no hands raised online.
Okay. For the folks that are here in the gallery, are there any folks that would like to approach the podium for this specific item? Yes, you all can come and line up and state your name, city of residence. Thank you for your patience. You'll have 3 minutes.
Hi, I'm Monica Brady with Wyandotte Economic Development Council, Vice President of Business and Workforce Solutions. Just to echo what Greg had said, but when we go visit with site selectors in doing economic development, there's two things that are now considered part of the infrastructure when we're looking at, when businesses are looking to develop in Wyandotte County or anywhere, and that is childcare and housing. Those are now considered just as important as electricity and water. So the community benefit is very much needed and appreciated for your work on it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, committee. My name is Mario Escobar. I'm the chairman of the board for the Parks and Recs. And on behalf of the board and the Parks Department, I'd like to thank the committee in considering support the Parks and Rec Department capital projects and keeping us in your conversation of being recipient of the community benefit funds. As you know, the Park Department was one of the departments that took a significant budget cut due to revenue neutral, which ultimately had an impact on our capital projects. With our capital projects, we continue to improve and provide safe and adequate parks and rec facilities for the people of this community. With this additional funds will help us to continue to reach and complete some of our capital projects. Again, thank you for the opportunity to be here and speaking on behalf of the Parks Board.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments for this item? Okay, I'll go ahead and close the public comment portion. Committee, questions? Or is there a motion?
To approve.
There is a motion to approve. Oh, yes, Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you, Townsend District 1. Just a point of clarity, does that motion apply only to what's called ordinance amending and relocating the Unified Government's Community Benefits Ordinance?
Yes.
Is it limited to that? Thank you.
There is a motion. I'll go ahead and second. Again, this is for item 6, amending and relocating the Unified Government's Community Benefits Ordinance.
Mine, it's item 5, so I don't know. I think that's part of my confusion. On my agenda, that's item 5.
Okay, that's my chair got. Okay, I'm removing the numbers.
Okay.
The motion is for amending and relocating the Unified Government Community Benefit Ordinance. We are all talking about the same language. Okay, awesome. There's a motion in a second. Clerk, can you get the roll?
Roll call, Hill.
Aye.
Ramirez.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you so much. Okay, related to that, so again, now we're getting into kind of the minutia, right, of the actual ordinance. This is the Parks and Rec piece, which has reporting requirements, which has the edits that came from Commissioner Bynum regarding the inclusion of the Parks Board and their voice within that process. And so I don't know if staff had anything additional to say. Okay, cool. I'm getting blank faces. Or yes, Commissioner Bynum, if you had anything. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and do public comment and then we will get to action. Clerk, was there any public comments submitted for this item?
No comments were received.
Okay, any hands raised online?
There are no hands raised online.
Okay. For the folks in the gallery, would anybody like to approach and speak for this item? Name, city of residence, you'll have 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Dana Bai, and I am a lifelong resident of Wyandotte County, Kansas. I am currently the president of the Wyandotte County Parks Foundation, and tonight I'm here on behalf of the foundation to voice our support and our excitement for additional funding for the Unified Government Parks and Rec projects from the Community Benefit Fund. The foundation really enjoys working hand in hand with the Parks Department. Angel's done a fantastic job, and we just want to see the community continue to grow and everyone to benefit from this. So thank you very much for considering the Parks and Rec Department.
Thank you. Are there any other folks that would like to approach the podium? Let the record show no one else has come forward. Okay, I'll go ahead and close the public comment portion. Committee, any questions or comments regarding this item? Is there a motion? And again, this motion is for authorizing funding for UG Parks and Recreation projects from the Community Benefits Fund.
I'm so moved.
All right. Clerk, can we get the roll?
Roll call, Hill,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Awesome. Okay. We are making our way through it. This second to last item is authorizing the creation of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. Again, this particular program, the way that I like to put it is how do we create net new affordable housing options, but so creating net new affordable housing options, and how do we keep people housed? And so very excited for our clerk's office and our community development office to be working on this particular program. Before I get to any questions, committee, clerk, were there any comments for this particular item?
No comments were received.
Are there any hands raised online for this item?
There are no hands raised online.
Okay. For the folks in the gallery, go ahead and open up for public comment. Name, city of residence, you'll have 3 minutes.
Evening, Eleanor Jefferson of Kansas City, Kansas. And I remember about a year ago talking about the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. And I believe what I've heard is an answer to the question that I'm going to pose. And that is in the matter of foreclosure, tax foreclosure. I've not read the packet. So the question that I have is, are there remedies or are there suggestions within that ordinance to deal with and to hopefully prevent or at least give an opportunity for people who want to become compliant in their property tax to do so? Thank you.
Thank you. And we will have that a question answered to the best of our ability. Are there any other comments for this item? Okay, I will go ahead and close the public comment portion. For our staff, does anybody want to take a crack at that answer? I know it's kind of a yes, kind of, but VSCU itching to make your mic green. Go for it.
This is Z Bishop with the Unified Government Legal Department. And what I can say is that under the second section of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, there is a list of eligible expenditures for the money that goes into this bucket from the CBO. And among that list is the ability for contracted legal services to assist with evictions and foreclosures. Now, I would defer to my colleague Wendy Green regarding anything that has to do with the tax sale, which she handles. But I can say that the intention is for there to be an ability to spend some of that money for contracted legal assistance to help with evictions and foreclosures.
And that would be free legal assistance to residents that qualify for the program. But yes, Councilor Green.
Yeah, if it's legal assistance, then yes, since it doesn't specify what type of foreclosure, the tax sale is a type of foreclosure. So their legal assistance could also be used to help them with a tax foreclosure. But it sounds like that type of aid is for legal assistance only and not to give them funds to be used.
So to clarify, for this portion for the KCK Homes for Generations program, the goal really is to keep folks within their homes, particularly folks that find themselves in entangled air property issues. And so whether that is, there's a death in the family or a divorce or things of that nature that can prevent home ownership or get in the way of, this portion of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund is to assist with that. And our clerk's office and some other contracted legal services are options that can be considered. Okay. For this item, yes, Commissioner Townsend.
Not to get Townsend District 1, not to get too deeply into the weeds of this, but is there a set amount of money that would be allocated for that purpose for those who would qualify? For instance, under the circumstance you and council described, the person couldn't get more than $300 or $200 or some set amount for every case.
So the ordinance itself doesn't necessarily speak to that in particular. Right now, within the amount of funds allocated for the from the community benefits ordinance, there's about $350,000. Now, this ordinance, the one that we just passed, includes an advisory board, which all of us will make an appointment to or have made an appointment to. That advisory board is responsible for making the recommendations on what bucket receives how much money. And then from there, staff is supposed to use these ordinances as guidance to administer the goals that are listed. And so it's not necessarily a you get 300, you get 200. It is more of here are the activities that are funded that will be provided for free, no additional cost to those that qualify. More questions?
So the answer, I guess, is no to my question. There hasn't been an established amount set yet for
No.
okay.
No.
And the advisory board would do that.
They will make recommendations on where the dollars go. Yes.
And then would that come to
Yeah.
full board? Okay, thank you.
Yep, it'll be recommendations that's made to Economic Development and Finance and then to the full commission. Yep, okay. Any other questions? Is there a motion? I'll go ahead and second. Clerk, can we get the roll?
Roll call, Hill,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
motion carries.
Okay, this last item is authorizing the creation of childcare. We're not creating childcare. Childcare already exists, but a childcare ordinance, basically that third leg of the community benefits ordinance is childcare. This particular ordinance will put a pot of money, again, at the discretion of the full commission towards helping our home-based childcare providers. And the listed expenses you all can see are there, whether it's for being current on CPR and first aid certifications, whether it's, well, actually, those are part of the requirements. Some of the expenses are licensure, right, of things, facility improvements, energy efficiency, child-proofing items. So things to really help our child care providers who, God bless them, they are doing the Lord's work. And so I'm going to go ahead and jump to public comment. Clerk, do we have anyone submit a public comment for this item?
No comments were received.
Are there any hands raised online?
There are no hands raised online.
Okay. For the folks here in the gallery, would anybody like to submit a public comment for this item? Let the record show no one has come forward. Okay. Committee, last item. Any questions regarding this particular portion of the Community Benefits Fund? Yes, Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you, Townsend District 1. Just around, questions centered around, the definition of home-based childcare. I'm not sure that I saw that term defined, and I can imagine, I know I'll get, and possibly some of you or the other commissioners, what does that mean? Does that mean that the residents, the person who's doing this, the childcare provider, their residents and the residents of their business has to be the same location, same address?
Yes, Z, would you? Yeah.
Sure, I'll try to take a stab at that. This is Z Bishop from the Unified Government Legal Department. The definition for home-based childcare provider, I believe, Commissioner Townsend, the intention when we were working with the health department and with Family Conservancy on this piece of legislation was to follow how the state is defining it. So this would be a childcare facility that is in the home and that is licensed. So that is a requirement as well. It's got to be a licensed childcare facility, but yes, in a person's home.
Thank you. I don't know how difficult it might be to just add that as an amendment for definitional purposes, so that we don't have, like you said, they're all doing the Lord's work if they're dealing with kids and providing that service, but just so it's clear what's intended here, I just might offer that a definition be added as to what home-based means for these purposes.
This is Commissioner Davis. Commissioner, for the eligibility criteria in legal, tell me maybe if I'm off base here, but for eligibility criteria, so B, line 2, right? In addition to being a home-based child care provider located in Kansas City, Kansas, applicants must. There's the fourth one, which says hold a current license in good standing to provide home-based childcare in the state of Kansas. So the way that our staff would look at this is if someone says, hey, I have a childcare business in my home, we would go to the state and verify that they are legally allowed to operate that childcare business within their home. So we can put something more specific, but we were trying to rely on what the state has in place, and maybe we could restate the definition of a home-based childcare provider, if that would suffice. But the state does a lot of that work, so we just tried to really follow what the state of Kansas is doing.
No, I understand the criteria, yeah. But when I did read all of this, it doesn't really say for this purpose of this ordinance,
Sure.
what is a home-based provider?
Okay.
Now, we can leave it as it is, but that just might precipitate more calls or questions that we can avoid, because staff will end up handling that. If we just simply say for purposes of this ordinance, home-based means, just suggestion.
Okay. No, that's very, very good feedback and really appreciate that. But yes, so we're taking notes on that. Yes, Commissioner Bynum.
We could put it in the third whereas provides for the eligibility of licensed home-based childcare projects, and then after the semicolon, the state defines that as, and just add that. And I would actually make a motion to approve this with that added wording in the third whereas.
No, you're good. You're good. So I just want to get some clarity on your motion and where you are at on this language. So Commissioner Bynum, you're saying the third whereas, where it says, whereas the Community Benefits Ordinance as amended provides for the eligibility of licensed home-based child care projects or programs to receive funding from the Community Benefits Fund. You're saying right there, add the definition of home-based child care provider from the state of Kansas. Okay. Okay. Commissioner Townsend.
Townsend District 1, that sounds good. Is there any reason from council, either council, that it matters where it's added, or that proposes a problem for us legally that we're not saying, I really don't care where it's added, but just to hear from them.
The only thing I would say is if it's in the whereas clause, the resolution, this is the ordinance, but the sections itself are what is published in our code of ordinances, not the whereas sections. So if you want to make sure the definition of home-based is within the ordinance itself, then it should be within section, anywhere that it says section 9-22, it should be somewhere in there to make sure it's in the codified portion.
Yeah.
I mean, this ordinance number 0 or
Yeah.
that will get published, and somebody could go online to the clerk's site and find that as it's been recorded. But if they want to just look in our code of ordinances through Muni Code, that the whereas sections aren't in there.
I would amend the motion to place the definition into section 9-22, possibly under B1, but I really don't care, like she said, where.
Leave it to legal.
Yeah.
Where we put it.
As to the discretion of our legal department, where in section 9.22 to define, include the state definition of a home-based childcare provider.
And I'd second that amended motion.
Okay. We'll hold that motion in second. Yes, Z and Alan afterwards, or Mr. House, yes.
Thank you. Z Bishop again from the Unified Government Legal Department. And if I could, I would suggest perhaps that rather than providing our own definition within the resolution and ordinance, since we were relying on the state's definition in our discussion, it may be best for us to point to the state's definition. And the state's definition, you can find it in the regulations, and I have it pulled up. The way that the state defines it, they actually call it a family child care home or a daycare home or a group daycare home. And it means premises on which care is provided for a maximum of 12 children under 16 years of age with a limited number of children under 5 years of age as specified by, and then it cites to another regulation. So I think we could point to that, and that way if the state's definition changes, we don't have to go back in necessarily and amend it.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up where it's like, I don't know if we want to go verbatim because there could be some changes, but we could leave language in there that points to the state's definition. And if the state's definition changes, then our definition changes. Mr. House, you had something.
What she said.
Okay. That was very succinct, Z. Okay. So there is a motion and a second. Can you restate or whatever you want your motion to be, I'll accept
I
it.
would be willing to amend my motion to ensure that we identify the state's definition of a home-based child care provider through a statutory reference.
So let me just restate that motion. Move to approve
Certainly.
with the proviso that UG staff add the state's definition for home-based childcare providers.
I believe, Commissioner, that what I heard Commissioner Bynum say was that she would move to approve with the addition of a citation to the state's definition.
That's what I said.
Okay.
That's the motion I would make.
Okay. So one more time, move to approve. I just want to make sure hey, clear records. All right. So move to approve this ordinance with the proviso that staff add a citation for the state of Kansas definition of home-based childcare provider.
Yes, I would agree with that motion.
Is there?
Long way to get there, but I'll second it.
Okay. All right. Hey, as long as we get there. All right. As long as we get there.
Next time it's a lawyer, I'll make that motion. Yes, that's it. Yeah,
Awesome.
second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to add that citation. Clerk, can you get the roll?
Roll call. Hill.
Aye.
Ramirez.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for this heavy lift. The last thing I will say, and I'll reiterate it to our colleagues, is this board is getting pretty active. I don't know if you all caught it because we all voted on it, but Mayor Garner has appointed a new chair of the Community Benefits Advisory Board. It's Dr. Brown, Zilla Brown? Yes, Nozella Brown. That would be his appointee. So everyone, please do check to make sure you have made an appointment for this particular board so that they can get going on this work. All right. Does anybody have any other questions? All right. Is there, yes.
Townsend District 1, is this the board that required it to have a certain amount of funds available before it met?
Yes, so,
Okay.
the way that the language in the ordinance says is either June 1st of 2024 or $500,000. We're already past June 1st, and so, yeah.
Oh, it was the date or a certain amount of money. Okay, thank you.
Yep, all right, is there one last motion to adjourn? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Fine, and move to adjourn.
There's a second. All right, clerk, can we get the roll?
Roll call, Hill. Aye. Ramirez.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you all so much. Safe trip getting home.